Okay guys, quick. Guess who I am from season 7 of Love is Blind. Here we go. Oh man, I hope they don't find out about my inheritance. Van Gogh, guess we're going somewhere. Oh, I got a rollie on my wrist. It looks heavy on yours. Oh my gosh. Okay, did you guess? Did you need that last clue? You probably didn't. Okay, forget it. Wipe it from your memory. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review of Love is Blind Season 7. That's right, we're getting into Week 1, which is episodes 1 through 6. So we're going to divide it up like we always do, fam. We're going to do spoiler-free thoughts and then my spoiler-filled thoughts, which, of course, there's time codes below, so you're not too surprised when we get into the spoiler discussion. Because if you haven't already seen Week 1 by this point, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, save this video to your watch later list, and come back and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, hit that thumbs up button if you're excited that I'm back talking Love is Blind. I know, I missed out on Love is Blind UK, and I'm sorry for that. But it won't happen again, guys. So, Week 1, we're in Washington, D.C., or, well, technically we're not there yet, but we're pulling singles from Washington, D.C. So in case you're unaware of the release schedule, Week 1 is, well, at the time of this recording today, episodes 1 through 6, and then Week 2 is episodes 7 through 9 on October 9th, and then after that, Week 3 is October 16th with episodes 10 through 11, and Week 4 is Wednesday, October 23rd with the finale, episode 12. Will they say I do? Will they say I don't? Who is going to sing a song this season or say a poem? Because one of those two things happened. So like I said, we're back with Season 7, this time following a new set of singles from Washington, D.C., ready to figure out if they can fall in love sight unseen. I know the Lachey's were proud of me for that one, even though we hardly saw the Lachey's in Week 1, which, are we mad? Maybe not so much based on the previous seasons, but anyway, we're not getting into that now. What we're going to get into are my spoiler-free thoughts on Week 1 for Season 7 of Love is Blind. Let me tell y'all something, alright? I want to start here. Let me scroll down on my script so I don't forget. And I say this not to be a hater, right? But this was a very up and down type of week for Love is Blind. It felt like maybe, just maybe, we're losing the sauce a little bit. There were definitely entertaining moments in the pods, but once we left them and then went to Mexico, well, those episodes felt a bit boring. And that's surprising to me, because those episodes usually kind of ramp up the intensity. Now, I'm not saying Week 2 won't do that, and yes, thank you Netflix for sending me all the episodes early for review, but at the time of, again, this recording, I have not seen Week 2 yet, so no spoilers. But the conversations that they were having once they got out of the pods just didn't really grab me, and I almost felt like maybe some of the relationships felt a bit fabricated, and I thought, oh, this is not great. I mean, one of them didn't even get out of the pods. We'll clarify that in a little bit. But I will say that the Mexico sequence eventually left us on a cliffhanger where you're thinking, okay, now I'm back in it, But I was off the saddle for long enough to think, all right, I'm not sure if I'm loving this. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Because maybe I'm off base here, but for the most part, this was a very up and down start for Season 7. And if y'all know anything about my Love is Blind recaps, you know that I just do not like the music in this series. But surprisingly, the music was good. Up until episode 4. I'm telling y'all, we got a licensed song in the very beginning. Like from the jump, I'm thinking, oh, ain't no mountain high enough. Legendary. And then they actually played the song, and I thought, oh, so contestants weren't just singing it in the men's quarters. We actually hear the song, and it made a difference. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What a revelation. Using licensed music in an effective way can actually lift up what we're watching on screen. Why didn't I think about this? But then we got back to that nonsensical Love is Blind music where if somebody's breaking up on camera, you hear the lyrics, "My heart is broken." That was a terrible example. I know. But it's basically overt, right? The lyrics were just so on the nose. And it just takes you out of the moment. It made me laugh though, just not for the right reasons. But when it comes to the contestants, do I think this is the most exciting lineup that we've had yet? No, I wouldn't even say it's a very exciting lineup, at least not currently in Week 1. Things could get spicier in Week 2, but this might just be the most boring lineup since Season 3. And I say that thinking back now, like Season 3 had some cool moments and some very entertaining moments, but yeah, since Season 3 I haven't felt this bored with the set of lineups, or set of contestants. So maybe, again, things do get better in Week 2. But if you're looking for like drama and like some intense moments, you're not getting that in week 1. There are some instances where I thought, man, Nikki D, oh my gosh. But otherwise, you're just kind of sitting there, all right, they're going through the motions. But again, I'm really hopeful for week 2 to be stronger and hopefully more consistent and full of engaging moments now that we're almost done in Mexico and we'll be getting into their real life together. I'm telling y'all, when we get into their actual living quarters, like apartments, homes, condos, I can just see some relationships going the opposite direction of where they want to be. And that ain't great. But y'all, that's all I got for my spoiler-free thoughts. So again, hit the big red button below. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to hear any of this spoiler-filled recap and all of my thoughts, because that's what we're about to get into. So spoiler warning, again, if you have not watched week 1 yet, save this video to your watch later playlist. Come back and let's chop it up when it comes to week 1. So here we go, guys. Let's get started. It's time to get in the pods. Now, I usually don't comment on the sizzle intros where they sort of show almost everything for what's to come. There are some spoilers. I kind of wish they didn't do that. But the intro, for the most part, was pretty darn good, especially when they, again, use Ain't No Mountain High Enough. A contestant's heard on camera saying, what if I catch feelings? And then it's Garrett, I think, that starts singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And I'm thinking, that's a great song choice, 1, but 2, you must have had a good upbringing to know that song and to use it and to sing it maybe decently. But hey, it worked. So the intro it grabbed me, which was cool. And then eventually we get right into the pod moments. We're in the men's and living quarters. We're in the women's living quarters, and Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey come out. I can't even really say their names, can I? One observation I had really early on was Nick D saying he's never heard of the word situationship when it was used. And we know that boy definitely does not listen to Snow Allegra, because if you did, you would know what a situationship is. It's a good album. But alright, I don't even want to linger on those introductory moments. I want to get right into the relationships we see forming on screen. And let's start with Ashley A and Tyler. I'm going to say it. Ashley A, pretty dope. Tyler, pretty dope. And 2 dope people make a pretty dope couple. So I really like them together, and I won't lie, they're my number 1 couple so far in season 7. We get introduced to them, of course, but one thing caught my eye right away, which is Tyler's a nuclear security officer. Now I don't know whether to trust him or to maybe put on a suit, a radioactive like repellent suit before I see him and talk to him through that muffled screen. But for the most part, they seem to be really compatible with one another. And I like that Tyler sort of just like claimed it early on. He's like, you're my girlfriend. And Ashley is like, stop, like kicking her feet, on the sofa. I love them together. Tyler even writes a prayer and says it out loud for them before they eat dinner on one of their dates. And I thought that was pretty cool because, again, Love is Blind, you don't necessarily see a lot of couples praying together, and you don't really see couples really expressing their love for Jesus. So I really hope we see more of that. And then eventually, of course, Tyler's telling Ashley, I love you. And if y'all didn't see this coming, please go to an optometrist. I know a good one. And during their moments, I found that the music selection was pretty good. I think they had a moment, right, guys, where they put these headsets on and they start listening to music together. And the song they chose, I'm thinking, I'm about to cry. And speaking of crying, boy, do they cry. Yeah, they cry together, and I love that. Not as much as Tim and Alex, but Ashley A and Tyler, yeah, I think it's a match made in Love is Blind history. It's one of the best matches made in Love is Blind history. Well, we'll see if they make it to the altar. Of course, I hope they do. But this is a good one, y'all. All right, so now I want to move on to Garrett and Taylor. And hey, I hit you with my number 1 favorite couple. I'm going to give you a number 2 because I love them together. It's so cool. They're both nerds, and I say that being a nerd, but they have these like I don't know, E equals MC squared type of tattoos on them, and it's just so cool. But what made me really like Garrett in particular at one point was when he gets out of the pods with Brittany and then tells one of the guys, hey, Brittany's definitely not for me. And I'm gonna say something. You must be Keanu Reeves because you dodged that bullet, homie. You really did. And eventually they get into some more grounded conversations where Taylor reveals, I don't want to share my ethnicity to you, Garrett. And then Garrett says, I wonder what she's hiding. And I'm thinking, homie, don't ruin a good thing. with overthinking. Maybe that was just the producers playing it up in the way they edited everything together, but he did say he needs to know more about her. And what are you hiding? And he kept inferring that maybe she was hiding something. But it's Love is Blind, not Love is sort of blind. I'm gonna kind of tell you what I look like. You don't want to give that impersonation, or I guess you don't want to give that impression in the pods. So Garrett was acting a bit weird around that, but we'll revisit them in a little bit. So let's move on to another early sort of couple. We don't really know more about them, I think, until about episode 2. But Stephan and Monica, there's a lot to unpack. Stephan kicks off the conversation with as good of an icebreaker as I've ever seen, and I say that sarcastically because Stephan told Monica, hey, I hold the title of cheater outside of these pods. Red flag. I don't have a red flag, but if I did, I'd be waving 2 of them. Why would Monica even entertain him after that? I don't know, but something about Stephan attracted Monica, and Monica's like, oh, he might be a cheater to others, but he won't do it to me. I just don't love that introduction, Stephan. Monica then brings in some questions to make the conversations feel a lot more real, which is, hey, what's your political stance? Stephan says that he voted for 45, and if you know, you know. At least for the first term. And then he said he voted for Biden the second term, and I thought, better. And Monica didn't reveal who she voted for. I would have liked to have heard that because, you know, it's nice to have the conversation go both ways. But after that, Monica said, okay, next index card, what's your race? Stephan said that he's got some black DNA in his family, I believe specifically from Africa, and Monica was impressed that he immediately began to study African history after that. Now, of course, we've all taken Ancestry DNA, so we know that it sort of just has like the 1%, 2%, 3% type of stuff, and sometimes it comes from Africa. So Monica was simply impressed with the fact that he felt strongly enough to know more about his ancestral line to go and study and be cognizant of what it is Africans and African Americans go through and what they've gone through. So they eventually call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, and they said I love you to each other. So again, nothing wrong with Stephan studying his history, nothing wrong with Monica asking those questions. And at one point I almost thought, man, it is good to have those types of discussions on screen. So yeah, they kept it real. So of course, they're a thing. All right, we're going to bounce back to Garrett and Taylor now, because there is something that happened as we were going through Stephan and Monica's situation, and Garrett eventually says, hey, Monica, I heard you had some real questions. So do I. So Garrett wants children sooner than Taylor's timeline. And at this point, the producers are playing games with my heart because they're making it seem like, well, this is a breaking point for Taylor. They're sort of like building on this, and I get it. It's good editing for reality TV, but Garrett's like, okay, forget all that noise. I want you to be my girlfriend. And Taylor's like, I played basketball, homie. I know how to evade the best of them. Not yet. She's being coy, but they're vibing right now, and they're clearly a thing. So eventually Garrett says, I'll go above and beyond. Field of flowers, send over some sunflowers to Taylor. And he included a note in the woman's quarters. She opens it, and she eventually says yes to being Garrett's girlfriend. And the last note I have here, at least in this section, is that Taylor at one point was reading her grandparents' love letters to one another, and it was so sweet. I'm not going to say I cried, but I got emotional. Alrighty, so let's move on to Marissa and Bohdan, or Bodie, and they apparently howl at each other. Is it howling? What do you consider that? Yeah, it's like a woo or something like that they do. It's very interesting. But Bohdan was born in the Ukraine, and he went to fight overseas when the war began. So he had a very emotional segment that probably will resonate with a lot of audiences that watch season 7. But I gotta know which company he worked for, because that company that he talked about said, homie, we're still gonna pay you. You're good. You're not gonna have to use your vacation time. Like, go and fight. I don't know many companies that do that, but this company, shout out to them. I thought that they were cute together, but apparently Marissa didn't, because eventually, as we go through them speaking to one another, Bohdan talking about how he was previously married, how they both agree on the nonsensical point of view that Breaking Bad is not a good series, like, get out of here. Yeah, Marissa will reveal to Bohdan that I'm sold on Ramses. And that does break Bohdan's heart a little bit, but he handles it very, very well. And yeah, good for them, handling it like mature adults. The question that I have for you guys, do you think Marissa made the right choice. And I say that because we're going to talk about some stuff later. Alrighty, let's actually get into Ramses and Marissa. Ramses likes to speak Spanish to Marissa. Mi amor, mi corazón. You know, like he gets into it, you know. Marissa's eating it up like crazy. She's all like, oh my gosh, this man knows Spanish. So it's pretty cool that they are like vibing and stuff. But there was a moment that made me think. And it was a very messy edit by the entire staff. They did a good job here, though. A good job editing staff. Prior to Ramses and Marissa's date, there was a one-on-one combo in the men's quarters between Bohdan and Ramses. They were speaking about love triangles and talking about how, oh, that's crazy. Love triangles, oh man, I hope I'm not in one. And then eventually Marissa and Ramses go and have their date in the pods, and it does seem like they're in a love triangle with Bohdan. Now, Ramses was also previously married. What is it about Marissa attracting those types? But something is off here for me in the pods. I just don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but something is off with them, and it's not doing it for me. I don't know. Like, Ramses feels a little bit more infatuated with, like, the physical sense of things, and Marissa's eating that up, but they're, I don't know, they have this, like, childlike energy around them, or about them, but they're getting along more than I thought they would, and eventually Marissa gets into conversations where you just understand, okay, they're taking it to the next level. But in those conversations, she mentions something that I just want to bring up here. She says, what's your sun, moon, and rising sign? What is that? What does that even mean? Like, sun, it rises in the east and it sets in the west. Moon, there's half, there's full crescent, whatever. But what is that? That's nonsense. I'm sorry. Between Crystal's last season and Sun, Moon, and Rising this season, Lord, have your way. But let's get into Tim and Alex. So I'll mention them a couple times here, but I just really don't see anything between these two. But they immediately look like they're going to walk out of the pods together. Like, they just be crying, y'all. They just sit there and they are boo-hoo weeping. And I'm like, yeah, it's cute. But, man, what else is there? And I just don't see it. But yeah, you can just imagine at this point what happens with Tim and Alex. They seem like they love each other. You know, Tim head over heels, Alex just weeping on the couch, getting all these gifts from Alex. Or from Tim. It's nice. I just didn't see much there. Okay, so we've come to the point in my week 1 recap where we're gonna get into Nick D, Hannah, Leo, Brittany, and all that nonsense. So let's start with my thoughts on Nick D and Hannah at this point in the episodes. I immediately thought Nick was like McLovin with a little bit more swagger. You know what I mean? I wonder if anyone else caught that too, but Nick and Hannah, they are very infatuated with each other's looks, and it's pretty apparent that they're defeating the purpose of this experiment, which is blind attraction to one another, and they are just talking about each other's looks. Like, man, I'm a jock. Nick is like, I'm a football player, and Hannah's like, well, I was a cheerleader too, twirls hair. So yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it defeated the entire purpose of the show. We get so many different moments with them that make me scratch my head, especially when you find out that Nick D and Leo in the men's quarters reveal they both have strong feelings for Hannah. And this is where it begins. Nick D tries to, of course, get ahead of the curve and says, I'm walking out of here with you, Hannah. But Hannah says, hold on, sport. I don't really believe you and everything that you've said. Girl, if you don't believe him, why are you still entertaining him, right? But she goes further and lists all of her red flags about him. I'm thinking, Nick, okay, now maybe you should leave. And Hannah just digs deeper and tells Nick that I have a lot of concerns with you, but she didn't before the girlies in the women's quarters got to her. So, Hannah, think for yourself. So Nick D is in crisis mode. He's trying to reassure Hannah that I'll love you for who you are, not what you say you look like. And Hannah has a hard time believing it, but eventually I'm thinking, okay, who's walking away first? Because at this point, that rope is looking like it's going to snap. And eventually Hannah's the one to say, I'm breaking it off with you, Nick. I'm sorry. Nick is heartbroken. But guess what? In true Love is Blind fashion, Hannah quickly regrets breaking it off with Nick D. You know, there's always that one contestant who regrets breaking it off almost immediately. Funny how that works. But Hannah requests to date Nick again after the breakup, which I'm gonna be honest, y'all, I didn't even know they could like request these dates. So now it's I'm just imagining they fill out a ballot every day, like in order of most important to least important. I really want to date this person, but you know, at the bottom of this list is someone who's never gonna make the final cut. So they eventually have another date in the pods together. Hannah reveals to Nick D that I ended it with you because I listened to other women in the quarters. At least she's honest. But Hannah says, even in the midst of all that, again, I still want to continue dating you, Nick. I take back my breakup with you. You get one take back, I guess, in Love is Blind. But they're so back and forth and my head hurts. Eventually, though, we get into a real love triangle. Y'all thought Ramses, Bohdan, and Marissa was something. No, that was a drop in the bucket. Leo, Brittany, and Hannah have a love triangle that might go down in Love is Blind history. Now, from the onset, when we hear and get introduced to Brittany, she needs to be humbled in the pods, y'all. And boy, does she ever get humbled in the pods, I think. Yeah. But we get Leo trying to do his best to cuff somebody in the pods, and he writes a poem. Oh, isn't it sweet? No, it's not. It's kind of awkward. He should probably just stick to dealing art, y'all. But at least he didn't break out a ukulele or guitar. Now, I love the editing surrounding this love triangle because the music eventually gets really petty when Leo begins to talk about himself. And this is where I got the inspiration for my cold open to this video. He talks about his inheritance and how he grew up wealthy, and his biggest fear in life is somebody takes me for my inheritance. Bro, you better fear God. Stop with that inheritance talk, because all that material, whoop, it can go away in an instant. But don't worry, y'all, because Leo might have found his match with Brittany. They're like two peas in the pods. Brittany says she wants to be a trophy wife. Well, girl, you found the man for you, because Leo definitely would probably, that's his type. Come on, it's his type. And Leo and Brittany, they end up sharing a moment early on, too, during this love triangle, and it's just getting awkward and unstable. I'm sorry. And honestly, y'all, I got to a certain breaking point where we were hearing Leo talk about how he's an art dealer and financially well off, to the point where I was about to go and DM Credit Karma and ask for his credit reports. IRS, y'all listening? Reveal the tax reports, because what is going on here? Is he really wealthy? Because I don't know. He's talking a lot about it. But again, people lie. So Leo likes to complicate things in the pods and eventually says, yo, I've got feelings for you, Hannah, and for you, Brittany. But at this point, no one knew. They all were in a triangle, but no one knew about one another. Except for Leo. And then Brittany goes and reveals it to Hannah, but does it in the craziest way. Brittany slips up in the women's quarter and says Leo's name, and Hannah turns around and is immediately like, okay, we are on red alert. Are you serious? So immediately there's drama, and then Love is Blind says, Leo, welcome to the Villains Club, because he got the villain cut very early in week 1. Oh, and y'all thought we were done with the triangle. No. We're still here. Leo and Brittany talk about their similarities. So, listen, the whole evil eyes thing, I'm starting to think, y'all, bring us back to Ashley A. and Tyler. And I'd be lying to you if I said all of Leo and Brittany's conversations were entertaining, because I felt that they were so darn boring for the most part. They're made for each other, sure, but ugh. And Leo does the typical thing. Hey, I'm falling for you, Brittany, but I also got Hannah on the side. So Brittany is being thrown for a loop, and then eventually Leo and Hannah get into the pods together shortly afterwards, and here comes Hannah talking about the physical and says that, and I quote, I would like to have segs with you, S-E-G-G-S. I'm not saying the other word. YouTube, don't block this. And if you thought that, well, no one in the men's quarter is going to gossip, well, Leo's a little gossiper, y'all. He's a snake. He's getting info on Hannah that she didn't reveal to him herself. And eventually he's trying to play both sides of the court, and Leo tells Brittany, I can't give you an answer yet. I gotta talk to Hannah. And Hannah, I can't give you an answer either. Homie, make up your mind. But at this point, he's playing it up for the ratings. I know he is. This man is a master manipulator. And then Leo tells Hannah, I'm going to tell you something I'm insecure about, trying to open up maybe a little bit to her. And he says, obviously, like, I'm so incredibly financially blessed. At this point, y'all, I'm ready to report Leo to the IRS. I don't even know for what. Just gonna report him. Leo then says, of course, in a marriage, I like a prenuptial agreement. So the man is starting to get a little serious talking to Hannah here. And then he drops the ball because Leo makes a comment that I'm sure Hannah didn't love. Leo says, hey, I'd love you, Hannah, if you were a 500-pound worm. What? What made you think of that? Why was that the first thing that came to your mind? And why am I thinking of SpongeBob? So eventually, Nick D and Hannah have a moment. Thank goodness, breaking up this love triangle stuff. And Hannah says, after Nick tells her, I love you, Hannah says, hey, I love you back. And it surprised me, but I guess they're official. Not if Leo has anything to say about it, though, because Hannah tells Leo, hey, I love Nick. I'm done with you, homie. And Leo immediately goes into overdrive, picking up pillows, throwing stuff around, holding on to this like ottoman or whatever stool or thing chair in front of him, and says, but Hannah, I want you to be my wife. Oh my goodness. So then Hannah starts crying and it's a big old mess. So Leo eventually says, Hannah, you didn't give me a chance, which he's lying about. And then Leo continues to gaslight Hannah into thinking she made the wrong decision. And at this point, I'm expecting Hannah just to come up and say, goodbye, I'm leaving these pods. But instead she reveals, okay, maybe I do love you too, Leo, and I love Nick. Just like, Hannah Montana, what are we doing here? Yeah, so Hannah, I guess, takes time to think about it, goes to the women's quarters, and here I'm thinking they're going to have a spat. But no, Hannah tells Brittany, hey, technically I've already told Nick that I love him. And I love him. And I really don't love Leo that much, even though I didn't tell you that I loved him. So, yeah, you know what? You can go with him. And then Brittany's happy. Well, she's happy at first because Hannah tells Brittany in the women's quarters how Leo reacted to her, saying, I'm loving Nick. I'm going that way. So Brittany's confused and eventually, of course, has a date with Leo. And then Leo tells Brittany that I'm still split because he's still trying with Hannah. Like, just give it up, Leo. But, Leo eventually had made a comment that, he's going to guess Brittany's ring type. So at this point, I think Leo's grasping at straws. And it's really confusing. And if you're just as exhausted as I am, welcome to season 7. But Brittany continues to sort of entertain Leo and playfully makes comments like, I hate you so much right now, but I love you. Tell me about the 4-carat ring you're going to buy me. Brittany seems like she's fed up every time she enters the pods with Leo and then eventually just succumbs to his manipulation tactics. Like, what is going on? It's confusing. And Brittany, at this point, I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for you. Like, make up your mind. Do you want to be dragged along by Leo or not? Well, eventually, she makes a decision. But does she? I don't know. So Leo and Brittany get in the pods and Brittany presents a letter that she wrote for Leo and says this, and I quote, I started to write a letter full of love, but crossed it out because I'm still hurt. And I'm thinking, finally, Brittany, go in on Leo. Leo, I don't care if you have all the money in the world. What does it mean to gain the world but lose your soul, Leo? That's what she should have dropped, right? But that didn't happen. Leo kept cutting off Brittany and said, hey, I know you liked hearing I love you. Boy, get out of here, man. And then Brittany eventually starts laughing and joking, and yeah, they're an item. So after all of that drama between the love triangle and all these couples we talked about, yeah, maybe you could have already guessed who got proposed to and the reveals and how everything's playing out. But I want to lay it out here for you. So let's get into the proposals and the reveals, because after all's said and done, we're going to start with Garrett and Taylor. Yes, Garrett proposed to Taylor. I told y'all they were my number 2 favorite couple, and they made it at least to the reveals. Hopefully they make it to the altar. You can tell they're both nervous, but it's so cute. It's pretty cool. Like, it's nice to see that they found each other in the pods, and they look good together. They do. And you know who else looks great together? Tyler and Ashley A, because yes, Tyler proposes to Ashley, and it seems like, man, the couples who didn't talk about their looks in the pods are just making it out, and they look great together. They do kind of overemphasize that fact, though, between Garrett and Taylor and Tyler and Ashley. They both say, like, I'm so glad we didn't talk about our looks. And it's like, did the producers put you up to this? Who knows? But they do seem like they're genuinely in love with one another. And then the third couple that made it all the way to the proposal stage is Stephan and Monica. They're very interesting together when they first meet. They're whispering a lot to each other. Did y'all notice this? It's like they went to the Mark Wahlberg School of Dialogue. Oh my gosh, I love you so much. Do you really? So, say hi to your mother for me. You know, like things like that. And then the third couple to get engaged is Tim and Alex. Did they cry? Absolutely they did. But Tim is definitely going in terms of the compliments to Alex. He's saying things like, I knew you was fine, and that's a direct quote. He must have been so validated though, you know, in the whole process, because I'm sure he maybe had a little insecurity and Alex maybe did too, but they both are validating each other's looks. However, Tim goes above and beyond and starts referring to Alex and her dogs. I'm just gonna say that. He keeps saying the dogs or something. And Alex is like, stop, pause, cut that out, but he keeps going. Don't know whether that's cute or a yellow flag. And the next couple to get engaged, sort of, is Leo and Brittany. Now y'all know you fell out of your chair during their moment. You know you did. If you didn't, you're lying. Because we get a whole slew of drama within their reveal moment. Brittany continues to doubt their engagement, let alone the fact that she even loves him. She says, I don't even know if I'm ready to say I love you back, Leo. But you said yes to marrying him. In what world does it make sense, Brittany, where you say yes to marrying somebody if you can't say I love you back? Oh. Leo asked Brittany, hey, so what do you love most about me? She pauses and gives a non-answer. They are definitely not making it, are they? I don't even think they'll last long in Mexico if they get there. That's a note I wrote because I clearly know what happens. So they talked about even going to Miami if they don't go to Mexico. Yeah, we're going to do our own thing. Oh, they did their own thing, all right. The next two title cards are hilarious, and I quote, Brittany and Leo were not one of the 6 couples chosen by producers to continue their journey in Mexico. And then the next title card, and I quote, they took their own trip to Miami and broke off their engagement weeks later. I can just guarantee you Leo took her, rented a car, and said, I'm going to take you to my favorite art spot. I'm going to go to Wynwood. Oh, homie. Yeah, they were not good for each other. You know what? Kind of glad it didn't work out. But it made for good TV. All right, let's get into the last 2 couples in their engagement moments. Nick D and Hannah are engaged. And they walk out, and Hannah looks surprised, but not in a good way. The first thing they say to each other, what's up? Mamma mia, what's up? You are looking at your fiance. What's up? You tell me what's up. Are we married? Or we're going to get married or not? Oh, gosh. It's so funny. But in Hannah's testimonial interview, she reveals that how Nick D described himself was not how he actually looks. So she's still hung up on these looks, girl. I don't know. She's really judging him for the physical when she didn't want to be judged for the physical herself. I'm just saying. So I really don't see it between them, but yeah, they just looked over the moment. And it was so funny, but kind of awkward. All right. Lastly, our final engaged couple is Ramses and Marissa. How do you say engagement in Spanish? I love to say it here. But they are both laughing a lot. They came out and I thought, what happened? Who made y'all laugh behind the doors? But it is kind of cute, I guess. You know, they clearly seem infatuated with one another. But just when you thought Ramses forgot about the proposal, because I'm thinking, hey, homie, get down on one knee. Yeah, he remembered it right at the very end. He's like, oh, before I forget, will you marry me? Come on. So who's heading to Mexico, you guys? Of course, it's Alex and Tim, Hannah and Nick, Marissa and Ramses, Ashley and Tyler, Taylor and Garrett, and Stephan and Monica. Alrighty, man, these Mexico moments, I like talking about them, so let's get into it. All I gotta say is I think they upgraded the amenities here. They must have got a larger production budget because this hotel they're staying at, this resort, oh, it looks good. So a general note here, I was kind of shocked at how boring of a start it was in Mexico. It eventually ramps up, but it took a little while to get there. So these notes are not going to be so long, at least at the beginning. Stephan and Monica, we get introduced to them in Mexico, and Stephan said, and I quote, I'm willing to risk it all. And he's willing to do that on night 1. Oh my gosh. They are very much talking a lot about relations with one another. And they keep talking about Stephen's bones. I'm missing a letter there. So you catch my drift. It's really weird. But you know who's not weird? Taylor and Garrett. They're actually pretty cute and adorable. Now, there's a moment where Garrett reveals to Taylor, hey, I have to sleep with not a retainer, but my mouth tape. Here I was thinking, what is mouth tape? I've never heard of mouth tape before. So I guess if you have your mouth open, when you sleep and you're trying to, of course, not breathe heavy or TMD in your jaw, you use it. But that mouth tape moment was pretty funny, and Taylor made me laugh out loud at one point. However, Garrett said, let's ground this back to reality. We're going to have to solve some problems when we get home. And I'm thinking this is a great cliffhanger, even better than the one we left off with in week 1. However, I'm starting to think, Garrett saying we might have problems to face when we get home, and then Garrett was so keen on asking her for her ethnicity, and I don't know, maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 together here, and there's nothing there, but you tell me if I'm off base. And then we focus in on Ashley and Tyler. They prayed before they fell asleep. Good on them. You love a praying couple. And then eventually they're having a meal, and I caught that they are wearing matching Nike shoes. Really cute. They seem good together. And that's all the notes I have for them, at least early on. So let's move on to Marissa and Ramses. And boy, Vanessa Lachey, if you really want Love is Blind babies, you're going to hope that they get married, because you might have some sooner than you think. But Marissa does start off their moments by bringing up her previous type of man that she always fell for, which is military and masculine. She keeps bringing it up though, so I almost wonder if this is going to hold her back eventually when they go home to Washington, D.C. And then they're getting ready for bed, and they say, oh, we had a moment after dinner, didn't we? And then Marissa makes a sticky comment, and I'm very naive. So I just thought, what is she talking about? Oh, they're talking about that. And then they make it very clear that they're talking about that. So after that, we find ourselves with Hannah and Nick. And I'm not going to lie, I've got some decent notes on them. So everything before they were getting ready for the couple's pool party, super boring, throw it out the window. We're going to talk about the moments leading up to the couple's pool party, and then we'll get into that in a bit. But Nick tells Hannah kind of quietly, hey, I'd like us to keep stuff that we do between us and not mention it to anyone at the couple's pool party because I, and I quote, have a brand to protect back at home. Nick, I say this with all due respect. Who is you? Because a brand to protect at home? What? So eventually they kind of have their little pool moment. We always get one of those in Love is Blind history, but it's an awkward and very unusual pool edit. They're trying to make it super romantic, but it doesn't work. I'm so sorry. I don't feel the vibes. It's weird. But the next day, Hannah, of course, is very upset at Nick. And she reveals that she's mad at Nick for riding this duck at the beach. What happens, and I'll say it in a nutshell, Nick and Hannah are on the beach. They're just kind of getting sun. And eventually, Nick, in his immature glory, says, hey, I see some ducks that, I'm sure are for kids to use in the sand. And he's like, what if I ride one? Hannah says, no, you're going to give me the ick. But he does it anyway. And Nick doesn't do it alone. No, not Hannah. A random woman joins him, and she's calling Hannah jealous and stuff because Hannah's not approving of this at all, and Nick is buying into this, and I think he give her a hug? I can't remember, but it's a little weird, Nick. Like, your fiance says, I don't want you out there on that duck, don't go, and now you're adding a random woman into the mix? But Hannah says, I can't trust you, and Nick says, well, whatever, that turned me on. That's weird, Nick. That's so totally weird. Okay, so moving on now. Let's get into another moment with Alex and Tim. Alex seems to be very upfront and open about Tim's fashion sense because she says that she hates his fashion sense. Alrighty then. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, we can work on your closet or go for neutral colors or work on your whatever. Yes, I get it. It makes sense to say things like that. A constructive feedback. Straight up saying I hate your fashion sense. Is that a red flag? I don't know, y'all. But it just seems like Alex is always annoyed with Tim. So things are not working. Not everything is crystal clear between them. And we'll learn way more about this at the end of this recap. So it's time to go and venture over to the couple's pool party. Did I say pool party? I think I did. Nick, Dee, and Hannah walk up because, they have these, outfit moments. And their outfits are definitely something. Doesn't look like they're dressed for a pool party, and It's just, it looks like they're just not coordinating. But Nick D tells Hannah again, don't talk about our business together. I know what he's referring to. We all know what he's referring to. Yet, he's sitting here talking about how he's had relations with Hannah while they're mic'd up. So, you're telling the world. You think that we don't hear this, Nick? Come on. So I guess Hannah thought, again, we couldn't hear her even though she's mic'd up, and tells Marissa off to the side, yeah, Nick and I, we've had relations. So she already can't keep her word. However, Nick is also kind of an instigator too. Nick eventually encourages her to tell everyone that they've had relations. Why? I feel like they're both walking red flags at this point. But Nick just digs another deep hole for himself because he tells the guys that the woman he raced with on the sand, remember the ducks, said, yo, she might have been 60, but she was bad. And I'm not talking about behavior bad. Y'all know what kind of bad he's talking about. That's not becoming of a fiance. I'm just gonna tell you that much. He's very immature, right? But maybe Hannah's like, let me one-up you, because Hannah wrote 10 questions down apparently on an index card that she has regarding Nick and his personality. But keep this in mind for later. Do we see the index cards? Not until the end of week 1, but we know they exist. So yeah, it's just weird all the way around. You notice how a lot of the weirdness happens between Nick and Hannah? I'm just saying. So now we're getting some girls and guys time together. The girls are setting up an interrogation moment with each of the guys, so Nick walks over to the girls and they do not grill him at all. No questions were asked. Clearly a lot of alcohol was involved. Stephan then walks over to Monica and the girls are fawning over him because he's saying all of the right things. And then makes comments about their relations. It's really weird. Tyler and Ramses walk over together, so they're next up and they're also saying all of the right things. Lastly, Tim walks over and they're all so drunk by this point that there's no interrogation. Ashley with her little flashlight, nothing's happening here, okay? So this was a cool moment that was set up because I'm like, oh, I want to hear some cool questions. But there was just way too much drank in the cup for each of those contestants to actually form coherent thoughts. What a shame. So now we're heading back to the rooms, and this is the final segment for week 1, guys, so I appreciate you sticking with me, and if you've ran out of popcorn, get more, because there's a lot more drama to come. So let's start with Stephan and Monica. Monica said, yo, Stephan, I'm glad we're decompressing after a night of fun with our former friends, or fellow friends, excuse me, but you're being chatty again. And she's revealing that she's having difficulty with how much Stephan talks and doesn't let her speak. That could be a problem down the road. But Stephan is clearly gushing over her and recognizes, okay, I gotta work on that. And then Monica shadily says, hey, something weird happening between Tim and Alex? And even I was thinking, where did you pick up on that? So then we get a moment with Ramses and Marissa, and they're predicting the likelihood of all the couples and who will get married and who will not. Nick and Hannah, of course, according to them, are least likely to get married, and according to America, we agree. Hannah and Nick then have a moment together, and this is where we see the list come out from the trash can, and yeah, those 10 questions regarding Nick's personality have come out to play. Hannah's still upset about the stuff on the beach, and then eventually says, hold on, we're still getting married, right? And Nick gives a cold stare. Boy, you would have thought the temperature dropped by 10 degrees because that man had an answer on his face, but he didn't verbalize it, and the answer is no. Because there's no way they get married, guys. And lastly, we have Tim and Alex with the arguably most dramatic moment in Mexico yet. It looks like they both had just gone over an argument that happened previously, and they tried to sleep it off, but it didn't work. Alex was trying to explain why she sort of maybe ticked off Tim, and Tim was trying to explain what Alex did to make him mad. But Alex says, listen, all right, I just really miss home, so maybe that's why I blew up. But Tim gives the cold shoulder. And then she mentions, we all know what happened after that, but we don't. Spill the tea. Tim eventually apologizes for being angry once he felt he was being shunned by Alex. So there was a lot that happened overnight here that we did not see on camera, but we might see in the reunion. So Alex covered Tim's mouth when Tim was like kind of going on, and that made Tim even angrier. So she's trying to be playful in the moment where they're really expressing their feelings about what happened. But Tim finally said, listen, Alex, you crossed a line. So much so that he packed up his stuff and left the room. At least he left for the night. And Tim said, now I gotta figure out how to see you as my wife and the mother of our children. Well, he didn't say our, he said the mother of his children. Weird word choice. I always, when I think about when you're in a healthy relationship, it's not me, it's we. It's not I, it's us. And it's not mine, but ours. So when it comes to that, I'm like, Tim, what are we exhibiting here? Alex then tries to break the ice again and say, Tim, let me move closer to you. And he said, I would rather not. And I mean, this man is not even looking at her at this point. I can just imagine the producer behind the camera, who Tim is probably looking at, and is like, homie, what's going on? This is awkward. But yeah, he just couldn't answer her when she asked if they would still sleep in different rooms. So Alex says, okay, but can we fix this? I don't know, Alex, because credits ran and we do not know if you can fix it. Do you have the technology? You might not. But that's it. That's the cliffhanger. We leave off on an uncertain relationship between Tim and Alex and Hannah and Nick. Ramses and Marissa seem to be in a good place. Stephan and Monica seem to be fine. And Ashley, A, and Tyler are a match made in Love is Blind history. So they are doing great. It's just the others that are not doing so well. So I'm very curious to see where we go. If I had to make a prediction, next week, we're going to learn Tim and Alex don't even make it back to DC. I'm just saying it. But if they do, it would make for good TV. So we shall see. But I am coming back week 2, guys, to recap and review. So if you enjoyed all this, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, like this video, and let me know in the comments which couple is your number 1 so far in week 1. This was so fun. I really missed this. I really missed out on Love is Blind UK. Shout out to Chris at Tate's Takes for holding it down. But man, this has been fun. Week 2 is going to be dramatic, and I ran out of Cheez-Its, so I need to go buy more. That's my popcorn. Just saying. Alrighty, y'all. Well, again, thanks so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I'll catch you at the next screening.